Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria and welcome to my second deck review video for my deck tour series. So today I picked two of my older decks and I realized both of them are by Barbara Moore, but different artists. So one is the Gilded Tarot, which is based on traditional Rider-Waite symbolism, but the artwork is by Ciro Marchetti. And the other one is the Mystic Faerie Tarot. And you see who the artwork is by Linda Ravenscroft. Okay, so starting with the Gilded. So it is very, very traditional in the symbolism. So it has bright colors, which is what really drew me to it. So if you haven't noticed, I like color. Nice bright colors. And what I also liked, and I think this was the reason I decided to get this long ago, was the black background, because it made the colors pop out, versus where many decks have the white in the background. So I loved how the colors were very bold and they popped out against that background. But as you can see, it's very traditional Rider-Waite symbolism, which is great. So this too could be a good deck to start with. So I mentioned in the first video with the Rider-Waite decks, it's a great beginner's deck, a great deck to learn the symbolic language of the tarot. Okay, so that's the Gilded Tarot, and it is a normal, what's called a traditional tarot deck size. Okay, so the other one, the Mystic Faerie Tarot, kind of in contrast to the Gilded one, I liked how pastel it was because I hadn't had a deck that was pastel. And I got these decks, I don't know, more than 5, maybe 10 years ago. So the Mystic Faerie, the images, the symbolism are a little different. So for example, we have the 7 of Swords here. And the swords are represented by thorns on the rose bush. So we're in a traditional deck, like the Rider-Waite or the Gilded Tarot. The 7 of Swords would be a guy sneaking away with some of the swords and leaving usually 2 behind. So very different artist interpretation of the symbolism, the messages of the cards. So I'll show a few more. This is the 6 of Cups. So instead of 2 children, we have this sort of mermaid fairy reminiscing in a big bubble of water. I don't know if you can see that, but in that bubble are 2 hands. So maybe she's thinking about a past lover. Here we have the 5 of Swords. So 2 fairies just sort of giving up. Sometimes I call this the mini Hanged Man card, so the sense of surrender, which is similar to a traditional 5 of Swords. But it's not the guy picking up the swords after a battle or after a defeat. So very different artistic interpretation. And they are very pastel, which is what I liked about it. But the pastel cards don't show up as well on camera. Okay. This is also a normal size deck. So the traditional tarot size deck. And I think that's important to bring up because there's so many different sizes and new shapes and stuff, but the ability to handle the cards, I feel is important. Because if you're like struggling to shuffle or the cards are too big to hold or too small to manage, you know, it can make you get frustrated with learning the cards or just getting used to the deck. Okay, and then there's the way, of course, how the cards shuffle. So starting with the Gilded. So this feels very normal, average. Again, the card weight is medium. It's normal to me. It's not thin. It's not super thick. So it shuffles nicely. Now the Mystic Faerie, the cards, are a little softer feeling, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's a slightly lighter paperweight, but the shuffle is airier. It's fluffier, if that makes sense. So I think it's a slightly lighter weight paper. But overall, they both shuffle well. I'm not struggling to bend them if this is how you shuffle. Pretty smooth. But I remember when I first got the Mystic Faerie, I loved how fluffy it felt when I shuffled it. And then, of course, you know, because they're just the average tarot size, they're not too hard to handle this way. So pretty normal, because I'm holding it a little higher for the camera than usual. Okay, so 2 nice decks, average card weight for the most part, average size, traditional artwork, very different artistic interpretation, and very different color schematics. Okay, so those are the differences between those two. Okay, those are 2 other decks I have, so deck reviews for you guys. Of course, most decks come with books. The Mystic Faerie book is quite thick compared to the Gilded, but I think that's just because the artist's interpretation is very different. I don't always read the books that come with it. Usually I don't actually, but occasionally I'll go through and, you know, you get some new perspectives and insights when you read what the artist and what the creator intended for the cards. Okay, that is my second deck review video. I'm trying to keep these short and sweet. Yeah, so if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe so you get notified for when other videos are up. And thank you for stopping by.